Welcome back. I'm your host, Rollins Fontenot. In order to be effective in today's competitive business environment, it is imperative that we are skilled at cultivating the right business relationship. Personal branding and as well as sales strategies are all key factors. And we're going to discuss these topics in today's episode with the help of several business leaders and entrepreneurs. Today, we're joined by Jim Cathcart, founder and president of Cathcart Institute and Motivation TV. In addition to being a successful entrepreneur, he is a best-selling author, motivational expert, entertainer. He's a member of the advisory boards of schools of business at both Pepperdine University and California Lutheran University. Jim, glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Jim, someone once said, "You're what Fonzie would have been had he gone to business school." Why is that?
I guess that's because I ride a motorcycle. I play guitar, rock and roll guitar in nightclubs, and travel around the world as a professional speaker. And I do mountain trail running in my spare time, and go to the gym pretty much every day and work out. So I stay in shape, and I'm having a good time with life. You know, it's such a blessing to be able to live like this. And I love the fact that somebody said that. That's cool. Of course, now then we've got people that are old enough that they didn't see Happy Days when it was on TV, and they say, "Who in the heck is Fonzie?"
What was the favorite mountain trail you've gone on?
Favorite mountain trail I've ever gone on. I've trekked around Canada. I think probably climbing Copperstain Mountain in the British Columbia in the Canadian Rockies. A few years ago, that was my favorite one. We have here in the Santa Monica Mountains in California about 21 different trails that I and a group of friends hike every Wednesday and every Sunday and sometimes on Fridays. And we do what I'd call competitive mountain hiking. We set a timer watch and we begin at exactly 7 a.m., not 7 a.m. in 1 second, exactly 7 a.m. And then we race to the 3-mile point, which is usually the top of a mountain nearby, and see if we can meet our own or beat our own personal best. One year I set 27 personal bests on the hiking trails. It was amazing. And of course, after that, it got a whole lot tougher to do a personal record. But I'm still out there. I'm showing up, and that's the big thing. You know, it's not whether you're faster than somebody else. It's whether you get out there and endure the elements and go for a high level of fitness.
Just curious, do you see any similarities between taking on a mountain trail and taking on the task of growing a business?
Similarities between that and growing a business? Yes. First off, it's always about showing up. Showing up is everything. Now, what does showing up mean on the trail? It means that I'm out there, even if it's raining sideways and lots of wind blowing, even if it's cold and below freezing, even if it's a hot, sweltery day, even if it's inconvenient, even, whatever. So showing up is number one. If you show up, you're going to do something. And if you do something, that's better than doing nothing. So showing up is number one. What does that mean in business? It means showing up for discussions with people that you need to be talking with, but maybe have been putting it off. Showing up for the discipline that's needed, for a salesperson, showing up for sales contacts, making the call, even if you feel afraid or reluctant or whatever. Make the call anyway, make the contact. And if nothing else, just introduce yourself, gather some information, and then come back at another time when you've got an appointment. But making the contact. Showing up means getting out the materials that you need to review and putting them in front of your face and at least reading the first sentence. A lot of times we don't want to do something, we procrastinate on it, and the procrastination becomes negligence, and then the negligence becomes a crisis. And if we can just get ourselves to show up, just open the drawer, get the item out, put it in front of us and read the first word. You're probably going to read the rest of the document, and then you're going to react to it, and then you're going to call somebody or send them an email or take some action on it. So showing up is a big thing. And another thing, on the mountain trails, we have sort of an unwritten rule, and the rule is no pause on the mountain trail. When you're on that 3-mile trek to the initial target, to the top of that mountain peak, it's not okay to stop and enjoy the scenery. That's for the way back. On the way up, it's about keeping your feet moving. So even when you're out of breath and the sweat's just pouring off of you and you're feeling miserable and your muscles are aching, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep doing a little something with forward motion, and you're going to end up with a very good time. I've found that there's always, half a dozen times in any one of those hikes, and a typical hike would be like 45 minutes long. There's always 2 or 3 points in that hike where I really would rather stop, where it hurts enough or it's just miserable enough that I'm thinking, why do I do this? But when I get to the end of that hike, I feel great about the fact that I endured. And I get there and I look and I see if I got a personal best or not. And if I didn't, it doesn't matter. As long as I turned in a respectable time and did what I feel would be an appropriate job on the trail, then I know I can go with good conscience for the rest of the day and not have any guilt about having neglected my duties. Well, same thing on the job. If there are things you need to do, like there's a meeting you need to have and you don't want to have it, just pick up the phone and dial the person's number. And if you need a fallback strategy to get you out of it, use something like, hey, Rollis, I don't have time to talk about this right now, but you and I really need to talk about that meeting we were at the other day. There's some implications that are worth discussing. And what may happen is Rollis say right back to me, what are the implications? And now that I've broken the ice, I might as well go on with the conversation. So it's showing up and then sticking with the discipline, enduring, doing what you need to do until you get the jobs completed. And there are a lot of other items out there. I mean, we're on a team. Our group is called the Heartbreak. That's one of our trails, Heartbreak. The Heartbreak Hiking Fools, which tells you a whole lot about our mentality. And we're a good-natured bunch of people, and some of us are in our 70s and some in our 60s, 50s, 40s. And we've got a few people younger than that show up once in a while. But for the most part, it's seniors, people 40, 50, 60 years old. And I'd say half a dozen in their 70s. And they're still showing up. And they're showing up when it's cold and rainy and miserable out there. And we don't worry about what the other person does. We focus on what we do. And we encourage the other people. So you'll never find anyone in our group joking about somebody being slow, or ribbing someone about being weak, or that sort of thing. They may do a little victory dance on their own success on setting a record, but they're not going to be putting you down. And so if you ever wanted a group where you're going to get encouraged to stick with it, no matter how good you're doing at that particular time, this is the group to join. And I think we ought to do that on the job. We ought to look for more opportunities to encourage, to support, and to cheer for the other people than we do to correct the other people. I had a friend, as a matter of fact, a friend that was in the hiking group. One time he was in a meeting with me and we were discussing employee motivation. And he said, I don't praise my employees. He said, I'll let them know when they're doing wrong, but I figure doing good is what I pay them for, so that's their praise. And I said, if I worked for you, my brain stem would shrivel up and I would die. He said, what? I said, I couldn't stand to work in a business where I got no encouragement, where nobody celebrated my little successes or congratulated me or thanked me when I did a job well. I said, if that's not going on in your company, there are people in your company that resent the heck out of it, and you don't know it yet, but you'll see it in their behavior sooner or later. Well, that was a few years ago, and that same guy is now among the first to congratulate the other people on our hiking team, and it spills over into his job as well.
Wow, that's a great story, Jim.